When the WNBA's Golden Goose sits down with Sue Bird and drops the most calculated challenge to league authority in recent memory, you know something bigger is happening behind the scenes. I'm Jackson Riley, and what I've uncovered about Caitlin. Clark's strategic timing will completely change how you see her recent comments about officiating. Because this wasn't just frustration talking. This was a power play.
So obviously I have the first injury and I sit out 4 games and then I come back and I play really well.
Yeah.
And I feel really good. And like even this beginning of the year, like I played great. Like I started the year really good. Like I felt really great. Like my numbers were great. I was shooting the ball well. And then I get hurt and it's like, okay, like you gotta get healthy, whatever. You're like, I'm gonna do whatever I can, you know, to get back to what I was doing.
Ticket sales are like up across the WNBA, and then and they're also, when you don't play, there's a dip, like a substantial dip. So how do you handle, does it impact your patience? You know what I mean? Like you're coming back from this injury and you know this, everybody knows this, that when you play that changes.
Yeah.
I guess the better question is, how are you like managing it so it doesn't impact?
That right there, that's the sound of institutional pressure in real time. But here's what every other channel missed, while they focused on basic injury timelines. Clark's "I wouldn't miss a call" comment wasn't casual trash talk. It was the most strategically timed institutional challenge the WNBA has seen in years. And I can prove it. If you're tired of surface-level sports coverage that misses the real story, hit that subscribe button right now. Because we're about to connect some dots that will blow your mind about how power actually works in professional sports. Here's what we're uncovering today. First, the smoking gun evidence that Clark's timing was surgical, landing her critique during the WNBA's worst officiating crisis in years. Second, the institutional panic her comments created behind closed doors that league insiders are whispering about. And third, the power shift that's happening right now that could fundamentally change how the WNBA operates. But we need to start with the setup, because what happened in that Sue Bird interview didn't happen in a vacuum. The WNBA was already drowning in officiating controversy when Clark sat down with Bird. Multiple players had been publicly criticizing referee performance. Coaches were getting fined for saying what everyone was thinking. And Commissioner Kathy Engelbert had just made her tone-deaf, "no winning team complains about officiating" statement that set social media on fire. Into this powder keg walks Caitlin. Clark with the perfect platform, Sue Bird's podcast, which has become the premier destination for WNBA revelation moments, and Clark, who'd been studying the game from the sidelines during her injury recovery, delivered what I'm calling the calculated challenge.
Like the hardest part has just been like the stop and go of everything. Like,
Yeah.
And also like with the type of injuries that I've dealt with, like there's no real, it's not like 6 weeks. All right, you're coming back for
Right.
the Connecticut Sun game on August
all about how you feel in the
30th or
moment.
whatever. It's like, how do you feel? Like, and even like when I have been back, like I don't know how I'm gonna feel the next day after playing, like when you're dealing with like these type of injuries. So I think just like the patience of dealing with all of that and giving myself a lot of grace and just try like see people continue to show up, and like for my teammates, whether they're like fans of the Fever or just fans of myself, like they're continuing to show up and support. And like that's why I've been trying to take as much time as I can. Like I sign autographs for way longer when I'm hurt than when I'm active. So that's never something I like wish for, but like, you know, I still want to make as much time as I can for people and, you know, give them something that they can remember.
Her basketball IQ gave her words weight. She'd studied film. She knew exactly what a foul looked like, understood positioning and contact better than most players out there. This wasn't heat of the moment frustration. It was calculated truth. From the sidelines, she'd watched her teammates get hammered.
Stop right there. Did you catch that? I was more so coaching the refs. This isn't heat-of-the-moment frustration. Clark is telling us she was systematically observing officiating patterns while sidelined. She was building a case. And then came the knockout punch. I'd make a good ref. I wouldn't miss a call. Those words didn't just sting. They were a direct shot across the bow at league headquarters. But here's what separates this from typical player complaints. The timing was absolutely surgical. Official sources won't tell you this, but if you follow the digital breadcrumbs, a different picture emerges. Clark's basketball IQ gave her words devastating weight. She'd studied film during her recovery. She understood positioning and contact better than most players on the court. This wasn't random venting, it was calculated truth from someone who'd done the homework. But the story doesn't end there. Because Clark's challenge created immediate institutional chaos that the league is still trying to manage. Within minutes of her interview clips hitting social media, the temperature of the online conversation shifted dramatically. Hashtags like "Clark was right" started trending and didn't stop for days. Fans began applying her critique to questionable calls in other games, tagging her name and asking for her analysis. She'd become the unofficial face of the league's officiating. Debate? Whether the WNBA liked it or not. That brings us to the inevitable question. Was this coordinated? And what was the league's real response behind the public silence? Here's where it gets interesting. The WNBA's official response was deafening silence. No public statement, no league memo, no acknowledgement that their biggest star had just questioned the integrity of the game on a national platform. But behind closed doors, that's where the real story lives. Reading the signals from league insiders, the institutional response was pure panic. Some executives reportedly wanted to quietly pull Clark aside and remind her to keep certain opinions in-house. Others warned that trying to muzzle her would backfire spectacularly. She wasn't the type to take corporate pressure and smile politely for.
Well, I'm gonna go to every road game no matter what, whether I'm playing or not. It's hard because obviously I do feel this responsibility of being out there and playing, and not that I think there's a fear of any of this ever going away. That doesn't happen when LeBron or Steph get hurt. They're always gonna be there.
You'll be back.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you do want to play. You want to give people something to cheer about or scream about, or, people spend so much time and money and resources. So it's been really good for me too, is when I do go out before games and sign autographs and see all the young kids or fans or whoever's come to the games, it just gives me a really good perspective on everything, and maybe gives me a little bit of motivation and just being thankful for everything that I have. And very thankful for my fans and just the fans of the WNBA, of how they can constantly continue to support and truly just want the best for me too at the end of the day. I think.
And there it is. The power dynamic that changes everything. Clark comparing herself to LeBron and Steph while simultaneously revealing her awareness of the WNBA's fragility. This is someone who understands exactly how much leverage she has and isn't afraid to use it. Official sources won't tell you this, but the temperature of the online conversation suggests something deeper was happening. Clark wasn't just protecting her own career, she was setting a new standard for player advocacy that the league couldn't bury under PR spin. The WNBA Referees Union reportedly bristled at her comments, with whispers that some officials felt personally disrespected. Yet at the same time, sources close to the league admitted Clark's critique wasn't baseless. Data was already showing inconsistencies in foul calls across teams and markets. Here's what the other channels won't tell you. This created an impossible situation for league leadership. They couldn't risk alienating Clark, but they also couldn't pretend she hadn't just put their officiating under a microscope. That's when the power shift became undeniable. When Clark finally returned to the court, every eye was locked on her, not just to see if she was healthy, but to see if the refs would treat her differently after her bombshell comments. From the opening tip, the tension was obvious. The first time she drove into the lane and took contact without a foul call, The fans erupted. Cameras cut to her face, and there it was. That same smirk from the Sue Bird interview, now aimed directly at the officials.
Just how much I was getting pressured. Like, it was just like constant full court. And also, I think as the season went on, like, that chilled out as much. Like, it's hard to like want to do that an entire season. Like, teams like, you don't want to pick up 94 feet an entire season like that. Like, it's just been so challenging, like being active and playing 4 games and then not, and like not feeling the best, and then like frustrated of like how hard I worked in the off season, and then like all I do is rehab and like continue to do this process, and just like trying to trust that the best I can. And obviously there's really
The constant full-court pressure Clark describes here isn't just tough defense. It's systematic targeting designed to wear down the league's most valuable asset. And her admission about never dealing with injury before exposes how unprepared the WNBA was to protect their golden goose. But here's where the competitive intelligence gets really revealing. While Clark was dealing with unprecedented physical pressure, she was also building the case for institutional change through strategic public commentary. The angle nobody's covering is how this connects to broader power dynamics in professional sports. Clark's challenge to WNBA authority didn't happen in isolation. It's part of a larger movement where star players are demanding more accountability from the institutions that depend on them, and the results speak for themselves. By the end of that first week back, hashtags supporting Clark's officiating critique had generated millions of views. Every questionable call in other games suddenly had fans asking what Clark thought about it. She'd sparked a movement that left the locker rooms and made national headlines. But the most telling evidence of her strategic success? The league's continued silence, because they know they can't win a public fight with their most valuable player.
a little bit easier, and like you're very, very motivated, and like you're close to the finish line of getting back and being back, and then like it's not like I have a training camp to like build up to like playing my first game again. It's like, no, like you're tossed into game 30, like go try to play well. Like it's hard, like it really is. And I think it has given me really good perspective on like what a lot of my teammates and people that I've, teams I've been a part of, like certain people have had to go through. Like I've never been through why it's been so hard, because like I've never really dealt with injury, and that's probably been a challenge in itself, because like when I first like was feeling pain, like I didn't understand it. Like I didn't know. I was like, am I just tight? Like, am I just getting old? Do I need to hit a stretch? Do I need to get like a little rubbed out? Do I need some icy hot? Like what's going on here? So I think it's been a balance of like understanding my body. And I know like, whether it's this year, whether it's next year, and even throughout my career, I'm going to be very thankful.
That vulnerability Clark describes, being tossed into Game 30 without preparation, that's institutional negligence. And her newfound empathy for injured teammates, that's building alliances within the player base that make her critique even more powerful. Reading the signals from recent league behavior, the impact of Clark's calculated challenge is already visible. Officiating has been under unprecedented scrutiny. Player advocacy has reached new levels, and the league office has been forced into defensive positions they never wanted to occupy. Okay, now let's get into rumor territory. Nothing is officially confirmed, but the online chatter is too loud to ignore about what's happening behind closed doors. League insiders suggest executives are privately concerned about overdependence on Clark's star power, with some questioning whether injury management protocols need complete restructuring to protect marquee talents. But here's the kicker. Implementing those changes would essentially validate everything Clark said about inadequate protection. Reddit WNBA forums increasingly discuss whether Clark's injury pattern suggests systematic targeting by opponents, with fan theories gaining traction that rival teams are employing deliberate physical strategies to neutralize her impact. And if that's true, then Clark's officiating critique becomes even more calculated. She's not just complaining about missed calls, she's building a public case for protection. I've been filtering through the noise, and the signals point to something unprecedented. Broadcast partners reportedly pressuring WNBA leadership for stronger Clark protection protocols, viewing her health as directly tied to contract values and advertising revenue. Think about that for a second. Corporate partners are essentially backing Clark's position that the league needs to do more to protect its stars. That's institutional validation of her calculated challenge. But the temperature of the online conversation suggests we're just seeing the beginning of this power shift. Fan communities debate whether the league would consider rule changes to reduce physical play if Clark suffers additional injuries. Some suggest this could fundamentally alter the WNBA's competitive identity. That's the level of influence we're talking about. One player's strategic advocacy potentially reshaping an entire league's approach to player safety. Here's what they missed about the Sue Bird platform choice. Bird's status as both WNBA legend and respected media personality provided legitimacy that amplified Clark's comments beyond typical sports controversy cycles. This reached mainstream entertainment and social justice discussions in ways that regular sports interviews never do. The competitive intelligence reveals something stunning. Clark's calculated timing turned what could have been dismissed as rookie frustration into a legitimate institutional critique that the league can't simply ignore or spin away. And that strategic thinking? It shows a level of media sophistication that separates Clark from typical athlete advocacy. She understood the platform, the timing, and the broader context in ways that maximized impact. That team growth Clark references here, that's building. Institutional support for her leadership beyond just basketball performance. When your teammates trust your strategic thinking, your advocacy becomes even more powerful. The early reports suggest Clark's return timing will coincide with crucial playoff positioning battles, creating maximum narrative tension around her institutional challenge. Every game will be analyzed not just for basketball performance, but for evidence of whether her advocacy forced officiating changes. Following the digital breadcrumbs, the pattern becomes clear. Clark didn't just complain about officiating, she built a systematic case for institutional change and deployed it with surgical timing for maximum impact.
As a team, because early in the season we were just so inconsistent, and if teams were to do that, we would normally lose those games, but it just shows that we're getting closer, we're trusting each other, and we're just, I think that's the biggest part, is trusting and knowing that we can win those games even if they...
Down to the WNBA this season, to take care of business in a winning streak like this, what does that sort of say about how this team is coming together? Yeah,
you know, Seattle's a great team, great team, and it's hard to play here, and so we knew that. We knew that they just came off kind of a bad loss against LA, and so they were hungry for a win, but for us, it's not about other teams. It's about our standard. It's about stacking the days. And I think that where our mental's at as a team and as individuals, we're in a really good spot. And, you know, it's not going to be easy moving forward, but I think today we stayed true to the scout. We trusted the offense. Kelsey has been having a hell of a season. She was a little bit off, but she facilitated for us offensively down the stretch. And it just shows that everyone has something to give, even if your scoring's not going to be there. But I don't know, I'm just proud of our team, and I'm proud.
That's not accidental. That's calculated strategic thinking from someone who understands power dynamics better than most people twice her age. What I'm tracking now is whether other stars follow Clark's template for challenging league authority through strategic media appearances and calculated timing. If so, she's not just changed officiating. She's changed how player advocacy works in professional sports. The immediate question becomes, what's next? Because if Clark successfully forced institutional changes through strategic public pressure, she's established a new template for player power that goes far beyond basketball. And here's the uncomfortable truth for league leadership. They can't put this back in the box. Once star players realize they have the leverage to force institutional accountability through strategic public commentary, the traditional power dynamic shifts permanently. So, what do you think? Was Clark's "I wouldn't miss a call" comment calculated strategy or spontaneous frustration? And more importantly, does this represent a fundamental shift in how star players can challenge institutional authority? Drop your analysis in the comments below, because this conversation is just getting started. If you appreciate deep dive, investigative content that connects the dots others miss, hit that like button and subscribe with notifications on. We're building a community of narrative analysts who understand that the real story always lives beneath the surface. Click the video on screen for more exclusive WNBA intelligence that the mainstream coverage won't give you. And remember, when you want the story behind the story, this is where you find it.